Well, hello there everyone, Mr. E here, and today it's tier list time. I know everyone loves a good tier list, and we've got a pretty good one here. That is ranking all of the weapons that are available to the Hive Scum. A couple of things to note here right up front. We will be ranking all range and melee on the same list. So, you can only equip melee in the melee slot and range in the range slot. And at the end here, hopefully I have a pretty good selection of things to choose in both your primary and secondary options. I'll make callouts for specific weapons that are better as like sidearms than they are as main fixtures for a build. But yeah, that's going to be what we're doing here. As well as the other thing I want to note is I am not going to be covering the marks of any particular weapon. I'll call out any mark that's like really exemplary or really shit, but I don't want to bog us down in discussing all those marks because a lot of times what really ends up defining these weapons is their blessing pool, and I'll be telling you guys about the better blessings to use on any given weapon, especially if it's one that I definitely think you should be equipping and playing with. So I think with all that said, let's go ahead here and dive into explaining what the what the tier list here means. I think it should be pretty self-explanatory. This is just going to be, how you should feel about using it, or how I feel about you using it, which is, first of all, at the top here, amazing, beautiful, I love it. These are the superior weapons on the class. They have the utmost synergy with the way that the class plays, the talents in the class, the way that this class can really boost certain weapons to be way more than they would be on any other class in the game. And they also just feel very fun. They are very powerful, but also like they just have such a good feel. For melee weapons, this is going to mean like, having a nice move set that's very comfortable. For range weapons, it's going to be like, man, like I'm just able to like shoot so much, and I'm not like bogged down by annoying reloading or whatever. Yeah, these weapons are the cream of the crop, and pretty much every build you could look at and just swap one of these weapons in and it'll suit it in some way, shape, or form. The second tier here is solid choice. These weapons are just like a little bit behind. Maybe they are like very good weapons on their face. They have good blessings. They can do valuable things for your build, but they don't have that perfect synergy the way that those amazing, beautiful weapons do, where they are just like running with that stat boost. These weapons are strong, but they're just a little bit behind that absolute top tier there, and this is a fine place to be though. You can definitely make builds with these as your choice. Then we have the standard tier, just kind of bland standard. This is the tier where I start to sort of think, this weapon could use a buff. To me personally, when a weapon in Darktide, I use it and I'm like, well, I played a game with a weapon. If I don't have any feeling either way about it, I really feel like it needs to be buffed or changed somehow so that it has something exemplary about it. The best sorts of weapons are the ones you pick up and you go, oh my god, if I do this with this weapon, if I make a build that does this sort of thing, I could like do this and this, and like it gets you thinking, it gets you excited because this weapon is unique in some way, shape, or form. Those are the best sorts. And so these standard ones really start to just kind of be very milquetoast. But that is still better than pick something else tier way down here. Pick something else is like, come on, man. Like there's better options, maybe even directly better options, like one-to-one upgrades for these weapons. And then finally, the what, lol. Like there's only a couple that I can think of that go down here. Maybe even just one. We'll see how I feel about it when I get to it. But yeah, these weapons just don't have synergy with the class. I don't understand why they're available to the class. I don't know what they were thinking about the design, but yeah, that is what they are. And there you go, guys. So that is the tier list we're going to be working with here. And remember to... Oh, well, I'm actually... Hold on 1 second. I'm on the wrong tier list. I got to start over. Ah, there we go. That's right. We had to go to this tier list where subbing to mystery is a solid choice. Yeah, that makes sense. I agree with that. And if you do too, if you want to see more tier lists, especially the one where I'm going to be going over all of the talents in the entire Hive Scum tree, which will come out in a day or two, you should definitely subscribe as well. Thank you for your support, guys. Okay, let's go ahead here and start off. I want to start with some really solid choices. So we're going to start with the Tac Axe. This is an amazing, beautiful, I love it weapon. 100 million %. This class is the hands down best user of this weapon. The downside of the Tac Axe, or the supposed downside of the Tac Axe, is that it has low base damage. To compensate for this, it has immense attack speed. It has amazing critical ratios that are like super high, and it can also just move you around the battlefield lightning quick. Now, the things that make melee on this class exceedingly powerful that you'll see time and time again is being able to attack fast, being able to move fast, and having a really, really high critical ratio. When I say critical ratio, what I mean is when you get a crit, how much more damage is that going to deal than a normal attack would have? Certain weapons, such as the tack axe and like the combat blade, have like 3 to 4x damage on crits, which is immense because this class does a lot of crits. Now, certain weapons have almost nothing in terms of extra critical ratio, and that is much to their detriment. So the more that a class or the more that a weapon can really, really draw value out of getting crits for this class in particular, it's going to be way better on the Hive Scum tier list. So the Tack Axe is amazing at all of those. If I were to make a recommendation of a specific mark to go for here, I think the Mark IV, the blue one, is probably the strongest because the overhead and the uppercut both have a 30% rending buff to them, so which allows you to penetrate armor, which is like the one thing this class is not all that good at. So excellent weapon to start off with there. I also recommend the Shred Blessing and perhaps the Head Taker Blessing as well. Good stuff. Okay, well from there, I think I said Shred as the last word, so let's go with the Shredder Auto Pistol. How good is this weapon? This weapon is very, very good on this class. This is a sniper rifle somehow. I don't know what it is, but this weapon is so freaking precise, especially on this class, and because it just does so good with crits, it has a very nice critical ratio. It does good solid damage when it's getting crits. It has lots of good blessings, such as the ability to regenerate your toughness when you are consistently firing this thing, or boost your damage, or boost your crit as you continue to fire the mag. All those are excellent choices for the Shredder, and you won't be disappointed using this thing. You can sprint and shoot at the same time, which is fun. Maintain that full blitz speed forward. This is just a really, really solid weapon here. I don't have any complaints about it. This is sort of if you want to run a more precise version of several other weapons I'll be putting up in this tier. This is the most precise full auto gun that this class has, which is pretty funny to say that. Now let's do another. Let's actually alternate like melee and range. How about that? I guess we're going to need to do 2 ranged at some point in order to catch ourselves up. So let's go ahead and do another range right now. Let's do the dual stub pistols. This will be the first exclusive weapon to the class that we'll be covering. The dualies, as a lot of people call them. Unfortunately, I believe that the dualies are just standard. I oftentimes want to play with the dualies. Like, they have pretty good looking stats. They have some solid blessings on them. But when you end up using them, you find yourself being like, wait a second. I could be doing so much more with other weapons. And I think that a lot of this comes down to how slow and encumbering it is to fire them. They just don't do any armor penetration, so they don't have any purpose there. So if you can't penetrate armor and you're good at crits, well, shouldn't you just be like shooting as fast as humanly possible then and shredding tons of unarmored flesh? And that is where these things get outclassed, because there's tons of weapons on this class that can pump critical hit-laden bullets into the enemies and get really, really high damage from it. These just are slowed down by taking a long time to just go choo 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 and do all that stuff. I do like the weapon special. I think it's fun. I think it's funny when you can like snipe with it. I like that they are more crit focused. I like the reload is quick. These are good sidearm weapons. Like they're maybe not my favorite sidearm weapon on the class. We'll get to that in a second, but they are good sidearm weapons. They would be good in that secondary slot if you were not focusing on a range build. But if you're focusing on a range build, I don't think that I'd recommend these. And I want them to get something extra. I want them to get something else because I would love to use these as the main focus in a build. They're just not there right now. Then we can go to do a melee weapon. Let's do the combat axe. Since we did the tack axe, how's the combat axe doing? I think it is a solid choice here. Specifically, one mark of the combat axe is the one that I want you to be choosing pretty much every time. That's the Rashad. The Rashad is the one that is actually featured here with this little sort of pointy hook at the back, and then this little sort of a diagonal support beam across the front. This Rashad axe has a tremendous headshot finesse ratio on the heavy attack. If you do the heavy attack, chop, chop, chop overheads, those things will just dunk just about every enemy in this game, because this class has access to tons of talents that can boost crit. It has headshot damage. It has base damage that you can boost with Rampage. All of that together means that you're just going to be lopping enemies' heads off back after back. And yeah, very, very solid here. Does good boss damage too. Just chunks bosses if you can get subsequent headshots. The downside of this axe, and the reason I'm putting it behind the tack axe, even though it has better armor penetration and stuff, is because it is not very fast. I mean that both in the sense of movement, which is very important for melee weapons for a lot of reasons, and also from attack speed basis. There is a talent that perhaps you saw my recent video on it that is called Hyperviolence, and Hyperviolence gives you 1 second to capitalize on whenever you get an overkill by hitting any number of enemies, right? And so the faster you can swing your weapon means the more value you can squeeze out of every time you overkill an enemy. You can overkill the shit out of an enemy with this axe, but the resets between attacks, even in light attack mode, are not very quick. So it's a nice weapon, but I just don't find it to have the absolute oomph that it needs to compete on a second-by-second basis. And it is a little bit wonky to play with. The game feel is a little bit off in this combat axe. I don't really like walking around all slow with the axe raised above my head, but that might just be a personal thing. It is still a very solid choice, though. Let's do another range weapon, Braced Autogun, guys. I'm going to award Braced Autogun a standard tier here. I know, Braced Autogun is like so synergistic with this class, one would think. Here's the problem with Braced. Braced Autoguns have lower DPS than other similar weapons, right? Than other full auto weapons. The comparison here is supposed to be that with Braced Autoguns, you can like stagger enemies and hold them still while you shoot them to death, and they're a little bit more ammo efficient. They have a higher ammo capacity than their infantry autoguns or shredder siblings. However, this class doesn't give two fucks about all that stuff because your goal is to blow up enemies before they can even attack you at all, and it also doesn't care about how much ammo you have in the banks because you can always print more ammo for free. These weapons just make you move too slow when you're firing them. You can either fire them with tremendously reduced accuracy, like you'll never hit anything past about like 20-30 feet, or you can aim down sights and move at the snail's pace. The real nail in the coffin for these guns is that they do not have good critical ratios. I'm talking about like a 30% additional damage sort of buff, which is really, really pathetic when you talk about the way that weapons that actually deal crits deal damage. So yeah, these, while they are fine on the class, I have never made a build with them where I was like, I couldn't just replace this with another gun and just do better. And I'll give you a recommendation in a second here when we get back to the range weapons, as far as if you want to do a build that would otherwise use this gun, just replace it with this other option. From there, let's do the Devil's Claw sword. I am going to say that this is also a standard weapon. You know, the Devil's Claw does have Shred, right? It does have some synergy with crits. It has fair enough damage, and this class, it's very hard to have a bad weapon, especially a weapon that's as fast as the Devil's Claw sword, because it can get at least one kill, and then it can cascade that with hyperviolence and hypercritical and clean up lots of stuff. This is going to be a great horde clearing weapon because of the strike pattern, and it also has that riposte attack which can help. But I think that personally the fact that a lot of this weapon's power is invested in that riposte, I don't know. The striking back, I think it's riposte, right? I don't know. Who cares? The retaliation attack on guard, that attack is dependent on enemies hitting you, and that's not typically how the Hive Scum wants to play. You want to play aggressive and blow up enemies, as I said before they even get a chance. And that means that things like the tack axe can ambush enemies, kill an enemy right next to them, and then just blat them in like 1.8 milliseconds. This thing, you're like waiting around tactically, although there are some builds that do not emphasize like high aggression in melee combat when they're going for that melee stuff. And those builds, such as the one that I did with the Toxic Avenger, those builds could actually benefit from this because you can just stand there and block and parry all day, and does have a pretty decent like critical ratio and stuff. So yeah, not too bad, but I don't see the Devil's Claw and I'm like, oh, this is the build I want to make. It's just not inspiring like that. For range weapons, back on range weapons, let's give the Needle Pistol its amazing, beautiful, I love it tier. Now, this weapon is very strange. I mean, obviously it's strange. It's like one of the most unique range weapons in the game. A little hypodermic needle that is toxin. But this weapon has almost zero synergy with this class in any way, shape, or form. It like doesn't count as whatever X appropriate type of kills in many of its configurations. But what it does do is just a stupid amount of damage for a very, very low investment of time and ammo. The mark that I would recommend using for this is the Mark II needle pistol. That one enables you to swap to the blue mode, which will spread that toxin stack to all the nearby enemies, which is amazing for just mixed horde clearing and just generally getting a lot of cooldown back in your stims if you're taking that one talent. And then the yellow mode is going to enable you to just burn bosses down. If you take a needle pistol and when the boss is running towards you, say that I use this weapon all the time when I'm going for a melee build. I just have it as my sidearm. Just go ahead and shoot the boss, like with your entire mag before the fight even starts. You'll do 25, 30, maybe even 40% of their HP with just those toxin stacks. And if you have a weapon that can crit enough to keep them up, or if you've got like the bone saw, which will actually automatically keep them up, you can really just like evaporate a boss's health bar. Just a free, cheap, easy way of getting rid of enemies. And the fact that it penetrates armor and gets around like, just otherwise annoying enemies, like a bulwark who's like, oh, I'm gonna block like 75% of your shots, but all he needs to do is land like 2 needles on this guy and he's down. So yeah, very good weapon. It has only really one good blessing, like one blessing that I think everybody should take, and that is stripped down so that you can sprint everywhere and just keep your stamina forever. So just be aware of that. Okay, well from there, let's do another melee weapon with the combat blade. Obviously, amazing, beautiful, I love it. The combat blade, it really fits in exactly the archetype we were talking about earlier. It is a fast weapon. It makes you fast. It has insane blessings such as Uncanny Strike, which allows you to just carve up the one type of enemy that is antithetical to this class, which is the Crusher. And it can just have really crazy like critical hit, backstab, whatever damage. Like it just feasts on everything this class gives it. You've got a really high crit chance, you've got a high headshot multiplier, you've got high mobility, you have fast attacks, like all that works together in perfect symphony with everything this class wants to do, and so it is going to be one of like the de facto best choices on the class. It is in direct competition with another weapon, but honestly, both of them are very good and very viable in their own rights. So let's just leave it at that. It was always one of the best weapons in the game. This class can just take its low base damage and make it absurd. And that is very nice to be able to do. Let's talk combat shotgun. The combat shotgun, I will also say that this is a standard weapon here. I did a lot of experimenting with this. There is one mark here, the Agrippina mark, which is the one that shoots the slug. This is a pretty good weapon. It has a pretty high crit ratio, like a 2x critical ratio, and it can insta-kill a lot of stuff. The problem here is you spend, it feels like about 78% of your time reloading in any given game, even if you have additional reload talent spec'd. Even if you go for Desperado and can give a guaranteed free reload whenever you press the button, it just still feels so bad to spend that much time reloading the gun. And then you have to like, sometimes you just don't get a crit and you have to shoot like a mauler like 3 or 4 times and you're like, God damn it, there goes like almost half of my mag. Yeah, that just really feels bad to do with this gun. I just think there's other guns that could do a similar job better. Well, not really a similar job because this is like a slug thrower. I guess there is one gun that is pretty similar we'll talk about in a second. And I'm not talking about the double barrel, by the way. But yeah, this is a fine gun. It's just not like anything that I think you should probably be building specifically around, just because the reloads, man, the reloads are so annoying on these guns. You'll just be spending all day doing them, and that really cuts into your DPS output, because this class, remember, it isn't limited by ammo, so the faster you can waste all your fucking ammo, the better. You're getting more DPS output by just blasting than you are by reloading and being conservative. Then we will talk about the heavy sword, which I will say is standard. I know we're getting a lot of standard things here, but don't worry, guys. I'll put some stuff down here in a little bit. The heavy sword is standard because the heavy sword has a pretty solid swing pattern. It's got some strike downs, some uppercuts. It's got a very nice, just light attack swing pattern. And because this class can scale any sorts of kills into just like lots and lots of damage with hyper violence, it's not bad. It really isn't bad at all. It doesn't have anything that really excels at, and the one thing that's going to stop you dead in the water is running into even a single crusher, because this weapon, even with those nice buffs, can do nothing against them. So yeah, the heavy sword, it's just the struggle that it's always had. This class is maybe a better user of it than a lot of other classes. Maybe the zealot definitely, I would say, beats him. But yeah, heavy sword's not terrible here. I would say that I've got weapons I've enjoyed playing with more, and I didn't really have any sort of like revelatory experience coming away from playing with it, but I didn't hate my time playing with it. From there, let's talk about one of my favorite weapons on this class, which is the dual auto pistol. The dual auto pistol is a straight upgrade to the braced auto gun. That is the one I was referencing earlier. But these dualies, I should say. The dual auto pistol here has a pretty low critical ratio as well, only about 1.3x damage when you get crits. However, this thing can pump tremendous amounts of base damage because it has blessings such as Blaze Away that can just boost your overall damage by 40%. And it has a very short reload for the amount of time that it fires. It can just absolutely waste a ton of fucking ammo. And when you think about it, like I've said several times over now, because this class has infinite ammo, effectively, it's better just to shoot more shots than to be conservative and be like, oh, I shot exactly enough shots to kill that enemy like you would with the braced auto gun. This is just like, just spray, just fucking spray. Just open up and just open up your backpack and pour every bullet inside your backpack out in the enemy's face. And that is basically what you want to do. If there was a gun that could just fire all of my bullets at one time, I would use that gun. And this gun is more or less that. It's just a little bit slower than doing that. So yeah, this just is a bullet hose, and it works really, really well with this class because it's got such solid base damage that stacks up. It can stagger shit. It's a weapon very much like the braced autogun in that realm, where it can stagger enemies. It can put them off their kilter so they can't attack you, and it's just an absolute torrent. Plus, it's fast to move with too. So yeah, definitely one of the best weapons, and one of the best weapons to go for when you're going for a Desperado build or a range build for certain. Then we've got the Assault Chainsword, which I will grant the standard tier 2. Man, I'm really just, standarding it up. The reason that a lot of these weapons are going to sort of fall back on standard, especially for melee, is because they are being buoyed by this class's base strengths at melee. By being able to get a crit, by being able to have a good critical chance on your weapon, which the Assault Chainsword and the Devil's Claw can both like get a bunch of extra crit. These weapons enable them to get hypercritical. And if you can get hypercritical, well, if you can get critical attacks, you're very likely going to overkill, and therefore you'll get hyperviolence. And yeah, it just works with the class very well. This weapon is kind of weak on many other classes because it does not have very much stagger at all. It has a lot of attack speed and very low base damage, but this class can make up for that low base damage by getting kills with hyperviolence, and that attack speed plays in your favor. So yeah, you can just like go crazy with this thing and like whipping it all over the place, and yeah, it works. Does it work the best of any weapon on the class? No, that would be like the dagger or something, right? You should just use that instead probably, but it's fine. It's fine. Now we'll go to a range weapon here that I think is a little bit more than fine, and that is the bolt pistol. I'm gonna give this a solid choice here. The bolt pistol actually has some very quality synergies with this class. First of all, since the class has such high critical chance, you can go for the extra 100% critical hit damage, weak spot critical hit damage, which just annihilates any target you hit with it. I would definitely recommend going for the not AoE version of the bolt pistol, by the way. Just the single target snipey version is going to be way better. And the other talent is the explosion radius, because that applies to both flashbangs and to the rocket launcher. Dude, I've got a build coming out. The rocket launcher plus this weapon is so funny. It's everything is gone. Everything is dead. Like everything is smoldering ruins. Yeah, really good weapon with the class. Quick to pull out, nice to snipe. If you're going for a melee focused build, this can be a very powerful sidearm because it's strong. It's just like a strong, solid insta-kill on pretty much any light gunner or special. So highly recommend. Then we've got the Bone Saw, guys. The Bone Saw is a solid choice as well. I will keep this one tier down from the Amazing Beautiful I Love It tier because I feel like the Bone Saw has some really cool stuff going on. The ability to stack that purple on enemies in the purple mode and make them take extra damage. It can also keep the toxin debuff on enemies, which is synergistic with a lot of different stuff in the tree. And it has those synergies covered. However, it doesn't really stand out as a melee weapon for a melee focus. It can be a fine, solid fallback weapon. It's really good if you've got a range focus build and you need something in that melee slot to, weaken up a crusher or to put a little bit of extra DPS on a boss or to activate certain talents. That's what it's really good for. Building specifically into it, there are better options, I find, because the Bone Saw, it is slow in dealing what it does, and because this class gets so much value out of like just killing one enemy and then moving directly onto the next, and this thing is very like methodical in its hits, even with light attacks, it's sort of similar to the combat axe here, where like the Rashad and the Bone Saw are like kind of pretty similar in that vein. The Bone Saw has a big heavy overhead strike that does good damage to armor, and the problem with that is that it can't really effectively make a whole lot of use out of hyperviolence. It is a good weapon for crits, though. It has a base 5% additional crit, which isn't hurting anybody. And again, those blessings, the innate buffs that it can provide are very quality. I just tend to think that this is a good supportive weapon. Like, it's really good synergistically with a ton of other builds, and I like that. I just don't think it's all that powerful standalone. Okay, from there, let's talk about a weapon that has no business being on this class, and that is the Vigilant Autogun. It's been a while since I've got to put the Vigilant Autogun in the D tier, guys. Fuck this thing. I don't understand. I mean, I do understand. They put every bullet weapon on this class, right? So they had to give them the Vigilant Autogun. But this is supposed to be a sniper rifle, and pretty much every talent in this class is all about getting kills at close range. This thing is unwieldy at best at close range, and it has a terrible DPS throughput. Like, the amount of damage you deal per second with this thing is super, super low. And because you can't sit there like the Veteran does, like the Veteran's definitely the best user of this weapon, hands down. The Veteran can just stand there and like snipe, right? He can just like sit up with Marksman's Focus and get nice critical hit headshots over and over again, and therefore he can use the Vigilant Autogun fairly effectively. This class, though, is all about running and gunning and being right there in the enemy's faces, and there is no mark of the Vigilant Autogun that is configured for that at all in any way. It's just like, yeah, it just doesn't work with the class, and there's nothing that you should be ever really using this for. There's just better weapons in every single regard. If you want to snipe, go for a revolver, which we'll talk about in a second. If you want to run and gun and be up in people's faces, you'd go for infantry autogun, right? Don't choose the Vigilant Autogun. And this thing is definitely LOL, why is this even here sort of inclusion. We'll talk about from there the Assault Chain Axe. I feel like this is a pick something else weapon here. The Assault Chain Axe befalls the one critical sort of flaw that you can have as a weapon on this class, which is having a slow attack speed. Even with a highly boosted attack speed, I tried to build with this with 34% increased attack speed from stacking stamina, and I was unimpressed because every hit engages the chains, and like it does fine damage, but you could just accomplish the similar or better thing with the combat axe and be even quicker because it just chops, instantly kills. You could accomplish way better with the crowbar. And just be more versatile at the same time. I just don't feel like the chain axe is where it's at, because again, like we said before, a lot of your value for this class is going to come out of getting a big overkill hit with hyperviolence and then carrying that on and murdering a bunch of other enemies with it. This weapon really can't fundamentally do that. You won't be able to get a kill and then move on and get a bunch of other hits on other enemies in a short enough time span, a short enough window. This is a much more slow and methodically played weapon, and it doesn't have as high a critical ratio as the other slow and methodically played weapon like the Bone Saw and the Combat Axe does. So yeah, I'm gonna leave it down here. I just think it's probably one of the weaker, or actually is probably the weakest melee weapon on the class currently. Yeah, just did not enjoy playing with it. Maybe I'm missing something. Let me know in the comments if I really did. We'll go from there and do the double-barreled shotgun. I think this is... I'm going to put this one up from the combat shotgun in here. I definitely think this is way better. The reason being, this weapon is ammo hungry, right? And this class doesn't care about ammo. if you just, every time you shoot this weapon, you blast both barrels and you take that blessing that gives you, I think it's just called both barrels, and it gives you 70% reload speed, you can pump out a tremendous amount of damage with this thing. Just firing it into hordes, you can one-shot maulers, no problem, like it's not even close. Just one-shot maulers to the chest, one-shot pretty much anything to the chest. Because we don't give a fuck about ammo, it is very nice. It is a very nice weapon for the class to be able to blast a horde, blast a pack of elites, blast a boss, whatever it is. You don't really care about ammo, so just start blasting. And yeah, you got to be close, but this class is really, really good at getting in close on enemies. So yeah, I would recommend probably like Manstopper to penetrate everything, and then that both barrels. But there are other like slaughter-based, like kill-based blessings that are good with it as well. Yeah, just a really, really solid big chunk of DPS. I think, again, it's not in that top tier because it just doesn't have general applicability for that, a lot of that damage, and it does require you to get like right up in the enemy's cloaca in order to kill them. But when you do, it is tremendous, and it's a lot of fun too, which you can't overlook. Speaking of a lot of fun, the crowbar is a lot of fun. I think that the crowbar is... I think the crowbar is a solid choice here. I have made builds with the crowbar. I love the crowbar, right? I think the crowbar is being heavily buoyed by the hyper violence and hypercritical and rampage as well. I like the different modes. I like that you can go pry-bar mode and like perma-stun enemies. I like that you can sweep. What I don't like about this weapon so much is I feel like its base stats are a little low. I get they're trying to compensate with that. By the way, if you guys didn't know, I've been trying to mention it recently in my videos, but this weapon has a hidden innate buff. It has basically the thrust blessing, like a miniature version of the thrust blessing. If you hold down heavy attack, you'll charge up your strike and you'll deal up to 20% extra damage. And that's sort of what they're going for here, is like one large methodical hit. However, because of this class being Hive Scum, that really isn't emphasized a whole lot for the class, right? You want to just be hitting a billion times a second. And so that's sort of when I enter into the pry-bar mode with the hook over for single target damage, that's how I feel, is like, okay, yeah, you know, like I'm foregoing what I could be doing on another weapon of like, you know, slashing randomly around me and killing like 3 random tiny dudes and then just dunking the enemy in the face. This, I'm like, I can hit this enemy and I can hit them hard, right? I can hit that individual dude hard, but it's very hard to convert kills from hyper violence into damage for this weapon. I feel like if you could do that in some way, shape, or form, it would be extremely strong. Like, it would be very, very extremely strong. If there was like an attack on this weapon that could cleave horizontally with the pry bar thing and then impact a big enemy, that way you could get like a kill and then follow up immediately with that pry bar attack, it would be insane. But I mean, it's still a really, really good weapon, and it has some pretty good buffs that enable you to get more headshot damage and just stack strength to like almost 40%. Yeah, it's good, it's solid, it's definitely a melee user's choice here. But I just don't think it rises to the absolute perfect tier. We'll do the quick draw stub revolver next. The quick draw stub revolver is a solid choice here. This has 2 different marks, obviously. You have the sniper variant, where you can aim on the sights and calculate your shot and the trajectory and be in an enemy and do a bajillion damage. Very good. But I think the mark that actually wins out in this class has got to be the Agrippina, the Fan the Hammer mark. The ability to just to waste a bunch of fucking ammo in order to absolutely annihilate a guy in front of you is perfect on this class, because we don't give a fuck about the fact that we just blew 1/16 of our ammo in 1 millisecond. We are just going to see a crusher, we're going to cock that hammer back and go boom, 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 and he's going to drop dead. Because this weapon has very, very potent critical hit ratios. This weapon does insane damage if you can net a crit, especially if you can net a crit headshot. And it has a blessing called Hand Cannon, which gives you 60% rending. So this is one of the only weapons on the class that can actually effectively deal with crushers. It can just go like, nope, you're dead, boom, 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 you're done. So that works for both this sniper version and the close range Fan the Hammer version. But since most of your blessings come from being close range, I think you would definitely benefit from going the Agrippina close range Fan the Hammer nonsense build. And yeah, there you go. So let's go on to the last 2 here. Shivs, absolutely amazing, beautiful. I love it. These things are just like the combat blade. They are super, super fast, amazingly high crit ratios. You will deal sporadically, like you'll cleave. You'll be like cleaving a boss with light attacks. By the way, these things light attacks are terrifying. You will just slash a horde, and just numerous enemies will just drop dead instantly thanks to hypercritical hyperviolence. And then you'll just convert that directly from killing like a dog that pounced past you. You'll kill him with a light attack, instantly gut him, and then you'll turn and drop a heavy attack on a crusher and deal like 75% of his HP. Because this weapon is so quick, it can really capitalize on that small 1-second window where hyperviolence is active. And this weapon can also throw itself in order to just apply extra dots to enemies. You know, you got a bulwark who's like open for a millisecond, throw a dagger into him, just get a bunch of free damage and knock him out like that. Yeah, really, really good weapon. It's going to lag behind the combat blade in terms of the not having the uncanny blessing, but you can still get riposte on here for an additional 20% crit. You can get a nerfed version of finesse for that like 45% finesse damage. So yeah, this weapon is really, 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 really strong, and it's a ton of fun too. It turns you into like a whirling dervish of death. I definitely recommend the Mark 1, which is the one like pictured here with the twisties in it. I don't really like the other one, the Mark whatever it is with that looks like a little broken shards of metal. That one preferences the heavy attack slash first rather than the overhead Hulk smash sort of animation that you do with this Mark 1. And the Mark 1 recently also got a buff to that attack too. So yeah, I think that the shivs are one of the best weapons on the class, and I have a ball every time I play with them. And finally, the infantry autogun, which I will also award the amazing, beautiful, I love it tier, because again, this is a weapon that can absolutely just drink ammo. It just annihilates its ammo pool, but because that is not a limitation for this class, we get so many upsides out of it. We can pour thousands of damage per second into targets, and this is enabled by the fact that this weapon has a really, really, really high crit ratio. It has like a 3.5 crit ratio, where if you get a crit, it's going to make several bullets in a row crit, and those bullets will do triple damage, triple what they would normally do. And it's just one of the best weapons. I would say that it and Shredder Auto Pistol are very closely in competition for what they do here. The Shredder Auto Pistol is a sniper version of this, basically. This one is going to do less damage up front when you're at close range. However, going past about 20 to 30 feet, every single bullet in the Shredder Auto Pistol will hit the target. This one is not the case. It's very hard to control this weapon at a certain range, but it's going to pump way more damage in return. And I honestly prefer it. If you didn't see my minigun build with it, go check it out, because it was a ton of fun to play with that. And there you go, guys. So that is everything ranked up here. I think there's only a couple of losers on this class. Obviously, the Vigilant Autogun really has no place for a close range sort of focused class. The Assault Chain Axe is just too slow to play with the effective ways to deal damage here, and you can see there is an overwhelming bias towards weapons that can deal insane crits and attack extremely fast. And then of course the Needle Pistol, just because it's cheating damage, because yeah, it's just toxin stacks, of course. But yeah, there you go. Let me know what you think down in the comments. I hope you enjoyed. Get subscribed if you want to check out more tier lists and more content about Darktide for I'm planning on like at least next decade of my life around this game, right? So thanks for watching, guys. See you soon. Bye-bye.